Stevens.
The comrade from Dumfriesshire, Clydesdale and Tweedsdale, many of whom his remarks, I have to say, I have to agree with, which probably will no doubt concern him greatly. Ms Ali, I want to also congratulate my good friend, the Honourable Member for Jarrow, for securing this very important debate. It would be remiss of me not to mention my family connections with the Royal Mail. My late grandfather worked in Royal Mail for many decades. Two uncles who also worked with Royal Mail, and I know that they cared passionately about the Royal Mail service when they were working for it, as do the workers in Govan and Hillington delivery offices. And it's quite clear when I meet them on the picket line during this dispute, just how much they care. And as I've said to the Secretary of the Communication, Scottish Secretary of the Communication Workers Union, their members in Govan and Hillington are a credit to themselves and a credit to their trade union, because they care. They care about the public. They know the public. They know the communities. They know the vulnerable members of the communities. They look after the vulnerable members of the communities, look in on them, make sure they're okay. And they care about the service and the key principles around that service. There is no interest at all from Royal Mail staff to turn the Royal Mail service into a gig economy style parcel courier. And I note, Ms Ali, that Royal Mail are introducing insecure contracts and lower pay into the service to try and turn Royal Mail into that sort of gig economy parcel courier service. And that should be a very deep concern for many of the reasons that the Honourable Member for Dumfriesshire, Clydesdale and Tweedsdale has mentioned in his remarks. And my concern here is that the direction of travel that Royal Mail are going in will leave communities, businesses, customers and workers worse off. And in discussing the universal service obligation, I think that we do need to ask questions about the financial mismanagement of Royal Mail, because I believe that does put the universal obligation at risk. And questions really do need to be asked. How a company can make profits and report profits in March last year of 758 million, which would easily qualify for any excess profit tax. That has been turned into, 6 months later, a loss of 57 million. It's almost Carillion-esque in its management approach. And as someone who was in the Carillion inquiry, I can say that I can see similar themes in terms of Royal Mail management's approach, in terms of profits, sending money to its shareholders, running down the service and then making losses. The comparison, I think, is not unfair. I think the end of Saturday deliveries would have a harmful effect on other industries. The publishing sector has been mentioned in this debate. It would result in millions of pounds of losses from people who would just cancel those magazine subscriptions, for example, and it would reduce advertising revenues. It would also lead to thousands of decent Royal Mail job losses around these islands, and that would run completely counter to the often stated levelling up agenda that we hear about so often. I do hope the Minister, in closing, Ms Ali, will also talk about the proposed takeover, as it looks like, of Visa Equity, who have been allowed to increase their stake in Royal Mail. We've had really no explanation of that as yet, Ms Ali, because I have a very real concern that they want to break up this service and break Royal Mail apart. And if that's the case, they will hear from many honourable members, not just myself, as to why that should be opposed and obstructed. Thank you.
Thank you.